In section 1.2, it's time for us to learn some more very important definitions. And all of these are related to observational studies and design experiments. All right, so a response variable is also known as a dependent variable in algebra class, or the outcome variable. Right? It's a particular focus of a question in a study or experiment. It's what you're trying to find out about. This variable is usually associated with the letter Y in algebra class in particular. The explanatory variable in algebra is known as the independent variable. Now, independent and dependent implies a causal link that is not the case in statistics. So it's okay to call them independent and dependent in algebra class, but in statistics class, we stick more with explanatory and response. It's also known as the predictor variable. So this is the predictor, and you're trying to predict the outcome. And this is usually associated with the letter X. In an experiment, it's the thing you're manipulating. The researcher's manipulating this variable to see if they can affect some kind of outcome in the response variable. Sorry. Now, treatment is an explanatory variable that takes the form of purposeful interventions in a designed experiment. So when you're in a designed experiment, the treatments that you're giving to the subjects are your explanatory variables, right? So you can have many factors of that. You can, try 3 different levels of the same treatment, or you can try, placebo and then this treatment and then another treatment. That's 3 factors. So, an observational study is a study where the researcher merely observes what is happening without manipulating the situation. That's very important, right? So they do not manipulate, they do not randomly assign. It just is what it is, right? And they try to draw conclusions based on those observations. Manipulation also can be seen as no random assignment. The researchers do not get to assign who is in what group. That's an observational study. Surveys fall into this category because in a survey, you're just calling people up or, talking to them on the street and you're asking them questions, but you're not getting to manipulate, who gets what. That's not how that works. Whereas a designed experiment is when the researcher manipulates one or more of the explanatory variables and tries to determine how that manipulation will influence the response variable. Studies where researchers assign, see, there's the random assignment. When researchers randomly assign individuals into groups to fall into this category, right? So if the researcher is assigning things, if the researcher is manipulating things, then that's a designed experiment or just experiment. We don't always put the word designed in there. Now, let's look at this in context because, of course, definitions are always better if we can attach a real life problem to it. So a team of veterinarians wants to compare the effectiveness of 2 fertility treatments for orangutans in captivity. The potential treatments are in vitro fertilization and fertility medications. What is the response variable and what is the explanatory variable? Well, I think the explanatory variable is actually a little bit easier to see. What they're doing is 2 fertility treatments, right? So the explanatory variable is fertility treatments. Right? And the response variable would, I imagine, be whether the orangutans get pregnant and have babies. So the orangutan pregnancies. Even though it didn't say it in there, that's implied, right? They want these orangutans to be fertile. They want them to have babies. So you could say orangutan pregnancies. You could say orangutan fertilities, orangutan having babies, that kind of thing. So there's a few words you could say there. Now, is this observational or designed? Well, the orangutans are most likely in captivity, right? It says it right there. And so therefore, there's no way this is observational. This is definitely a designed experiment because researchers control everything about these orangutans' lives, right? So this is definitely a designed experiment. This is not orangutans in the wild. because researchers control the treatments and the orangutans at that. I shouldn't say the word control, I'll say manipulate. Manipulate the treatments and the orangutans. So pick your reason. Now, for how many levels of treatment are there? There were two. There was the in vitro fertilization. Oops, I'm spelling that wrong. In vitro. And then there is the fertility medication, right? So put it in their food or something like that and get them to eat it, and that would increase their fertility. Okay. All right, so that's what it means to have levels of treatment, a designed experiment, explanatory and response variables.